In the upcoming keynote session, I would like to invite Sagar Kochar, co-founder Rebel Foods, to address our August gathering.
Hello all, a very hearty welcome to the Martech Asia 2021 Virtual Summit. And thanks a lot to Brand Equity to give me this privilege to address the new age marketers and business leaders. I'm sure you all are having a great time listening to the stalwarts of Martech and their domain insights on marketing and technology that will help you engage more deeply with your consumers. But what I am going to share over the next 30 minutes or so is our real life case study of how these two domains of marketing and technology have helped us to reimagine a century old industry of F&B. And I would like to emphasize on the fact that the job of today's marketer is not limited to just optimizing for what you have as a business or run campaigns, but actually to challenge the status quo in your business, look at the ever evolving need gaps in the industry, work on offerings which are consumer backwards instead of solution forward, and to do so, identify the frictional forces of your industry and then use technology to circumvent those. And if done properly, this can truly create magic. So, without any further delay, let's jump into our journey of Martech, or this entire beautiful amalgamation of how we used a consumer first insight and technology to disrupt an age old industry of F&B. So, next 30 minutes, I'm going to take us through the journey of Rebel Foods, the building of the world's largest internet restaurant platform using the power of marketing and technology. And before I deep dive into what exactly have we done, what exactly have we created, I think it's important to understand as to what is the opportunity that we are looking at. So when you look at worldwide, the biggest industries, you look at retail, a 21.6 trillion dollar market size industry, how a player like Amazon came in and literally disrupted the way the retail always operated in the conventional brick and mortar format by activating a flywheel of convenience, selection, and value. Likewise, when you look at entertainment, Netflix came in and challenged the status quo, the conventional operators like Disney. When you look at hotels as an industry, Marriott's, who have existed for over a century now, have about more than a million plus 1.5 million rooms. How an entity like Airbnb came in and they literally redefined, reimagined the way this entire space existed. And today they have a space of not just more than 5 million rooms, but more importantly, they have literally disrupted the way consumer consume this very segment of hospitality. And while doing that, they have also created immense value, as you could see. But when you look at F&B, the food and beverage industry across the globe, till date, almost since last 100 years, the biggest operator there of the likes of McDonald's have constantly kept on operating in the same conventional brick and mortar format. And that was exactly the opportunity that we were staring at about a decade back. That is when we started off our journey. We felt that F&B is that last frontier which has still not been disrupted by internet. And that's where we feel that it's an opportunity to build $100 billion company. So while we understood that this is how big this industry is, the next big thing was to understand what is it that we are going to solve for the consumer. So again, going back about a decade when we started in the year 11, 12, we wanted, our aspiration was to be the Indian homegrown largest QSR brand. Again, in a category of Indian food, which is wraps and meals, unlike any of the pizzas or the burger operators. And while we were doing that, we realized that that was just one small mission or segment of users that we were catering to. And if we really had to disrupt this big an industry, it had to be a lot more deeper. And we took a pause and we looked at it from a consumer lens. And that is when we realized that the opportunity size in this space, in this F&B sector, is not limited to being the largest wrap operator or a burger operator or a pizza operator. But the landscape of possibilities is endless. So if you look at this 2x2, again, in a very consumer backwards way, on the x-axis, you have your regular meals. On the extreme end, you have your indulgent meals. On the y-axis, you have single serves and families. So unlike any other industry where a consumer belongs to a segment, when it comes to F&B, fundamentally consumers move between all these different missions. Just to play it out for you, like on a typical weekday, a consumer would want to have a very homely cooked meal, a homely cooked lunch. Likewise, on another weekday evening, the person would want to indulge in a snack offering. On some celebratory opportunity with friends and family, the person would like to order for pizzas in a group ordering occasion. And then on some special occasions, the person would want to celebrate with their close ones by going to, say, the Hakasans of the world. So fundamentally, consumers keep on moving between these all these missions that exist in their life. And it's not just only a play of category, but a lot more deeper play, which is an amalgamation of multiple missions along with category. So when we looked at disrupting this F&B space, this is how big the opportunity was right in front of us. And while realizing that, we said, if we were to really disrupt that, it has to be about solving for all these different consumer food missions. So fundamentally, what did we say? We said that the F&B industry is ripe for disruption. We said that what are the consumer problems that have not been solved, and we understood the landscape of possibilities and missions that were to be catered. But once you have done that, the next important thing is to understand as to why till date has none of them operator being able to do that, which is fundamentally understanding the frictional forces that exist in this very industry of yours. So that was what our next attempt was, and which is again something that we realized while we were constantly scaling up Fastsource back then. So while we understood the fact that the F&B sector was ripe for disruption, we looked at the fact that the the opportunity landscape is wide and endless. But now we need to understand that what are the frictional forces that exist, which is why none of the operators has been able to really do that. And when you look at the frictional forces that exist in F&B space, there are these two of them. One is the real estate and the skill. Let me just double down on each one of them. When you look at real estate, the fact that India has the lowest per capita restaurant penetration. If I just double down on the numbers, per 1,000 population, there are only 0.2 restaurants that exist in India, versus China, where the similar penetration is about 6.6. In US, that number is about 2.1. But fundamentally, why is that the reason? Why is that so? Is the fact that the supply, the market is massively supply constrained because of the low per capita retail space availability. So if again we look at the numbers, the retail space that exists in a market like India is at about 54 square feet per 1,000 population. And a similar number for US market is 21,000, and for China is about 400 square feet per 1,000 population. So what we looked at is that this market is massively supply constrained on the F&B supply side. But the fundamental reason there is the fact that the retail space availability is really very meager. And that becomes the reason for the fact that the rental cost as a percentage of revenue in a market like India is almost double to any other part of the world. Like if you look at the similar operators who operate in the Western world, they would fundamentally operate at about 2.5 to 10% kind of a level, the rent to revenue ratio. The similar ratio in India happens to be at about 15 to 20%. And then that becomes a massive frictional force for any operator to scale up beyond a point, because the cost becomes prohibitive, not just the capex part of it, but even the opex part of it. And that again brings back to the same point, which is if you look at India as a market, there are only two chains which have more than 500 outlets, versus US market where you have 75 chains with more than 500 outlets, and China where you have 25 chains with more than 500 outlets. So this ends up being one of the major frictional forces for any operator in F&B space in India. The second big frictional force out there is skill. Now, as you could see, our chef here on the right top side is trying to play with fire. Let me elaborate that with the help of an example. When you look at F&B space in India, Chinese category, the Chinese cuisine happens to be amongst the top 5 categories in the country. Yet when you look at the supply side, there's not even a single player with more than 20, 30 outlets across the country. Why is that so? The fundamental reason there is the fact that making of Chinese is a high skilled job. You literally have to keep on tossing the wok on fire, keep on adding the right sort of condiments and ingredients at the right time to ensure that the recipe that you churn out is exactly the way it is supposed to be. And not think of a similar thing to be replicated across 100 locations. The challenge goes to altogether another level. So the point is that for a restaurateur to be able to scale up a concept, a recipe at scale is a big, big frictional force. I'd like to give you another example, which I'm sure most of us would have seen in our lives. Like you would have discussed with your friend that there's this restaurant which was really great about, say, 2 years back. But now in this other part of the city where they have scaled up, the quality is not up to the mark. And the owner has started compromising. What we need to really understand is that no business owner is ever going to compromise on the food or the recipe that they're creating. But the fact that when this gentleman tried to replicate this recipe at scale, because it was highly skill dependent, somewhere the chain broke, and that is where the experience went for a toss. So what we are trying to say here is that these are the two big frictional forces that exist in a market, a high opportunity market like India, where you're not able to see why there are no food F&B players who are able to scale up. And that also brings me to the fact that while F&B happens to be one of the biggest sector where most of the startups happen, but almost 60% of these startups shut in their year one, and another 20 year, unfortunately, by the year two, because that's by when the owner realizes that it was a glamorous thing, but it's difficult to execute. So what we are saying here is that we understood that the F&B industry was ripe for disruption. Then we looked at what is the landscape. The landscape is not about, the opportunity is not just about being the largest burger operator or a pizza operator or a wrap operator. There are these thousands of missions that exist in the life of a user across category. Number three, we said that what are the frictional forces? Why has nobody been able to do that? And that's where we looked at the constraints of real estate and skill. And after having realized this, is what you end up doing, which is using the technology to try and remove these frictional forces. And that's exactly what we have been able to accomplish in our journey of last 5 years, wherein when we understood the opportunity size, that there are so many missions to be covered. And when we were trying to scale up our first brand of Fasos, in the conventional way, on the left-hand side, you see the conventional operator, the conventional business model, wherein any operator would enter into a segment, pick up a category, and then try to scale up their product and brand through the brick and mortar physical outlet. And that's what exactly we tried doing. Was soon to realize that it was execution intensive and capital intensive and high risk, high brand risk, high location risk kind of a business. And that's when we took a pause. We said that do we really need to follow the conventional route, or can we revisit it? Can we really go and challenge the frictional force of real estate? That's when we, using the technology, we said, and we also, for that matter, we also actually realized the fact that these two other interesting data points that came up. The number one was the fact that almost 70-75% of our orders started happening through delivery, because consumers in the year 2016-17 started moving towards convenience. And we also did some surveys, which is the data point number two, and realized that almost 67% of our consumers had not even seen our Faso store fronted. So we said that why do we want to go down the same traditional route, and why not instead go and identify a catchment where you need to activate a kitchen, take a big 2000 square feet kitchen and put it on the cloud using technology and enable the content, enable your brand across on the digital ecosystem. And that's exactly what we did in the year 2014-15, and we were the pioneers of this new norm of industry, which is very famously now known as the cloud kitchen business model. So once we did that, we were actually able to eliminate the frictional force number one, which is we scaled up not just in the year 14-15, we scaled up from what 40-50 outlets to straight away about 150-160 outlets, using the cloud kitchen, using the technology and enabling our Fasos brand through this network of cloud kitchens across the country. And then we realized the next big challenge or the opportunity, which is we said that now that we have been able to decouple the brand and the real estate, which have been fundamentally the way the conventional businesses have operated, why not also try and enable all those missions from the same premise? But again, we had the frictional force number two, which is how do you replicate this great recipe that our chefs and team had come up, for that matter, the recipe of Behrooz at scale? And that's where we again use technology to eliminate this very frictional force. And we rather evolved our entire platform, and we know it's famously known in the entire industry as the Rebel operating system, which basically has these three components. It comprises of automation-led culinary technology, a software stack, and a supply chain pipe. Quickly elaborating them again. The first one is a very interesting one, which is where, as I shared with you, skill set. We saw the image of a chef trying to play with fire. And then we said, how do we replicate this skill of playing with fire across the country? And that's not possible. And we using automation, robotics, we try to innovate an equipment of ours, which is now called Voki, as you could see on the left-hand side, where very easily, very seamlessly, it's again an equipment. It's a voice-enabled, AI-enabled kind of a device where an individual stands, not a high-skilled chef, but a chef stands in front of this and keeps on adding the right condiments, right ingredients at exactly the right time, thereby ensuring the recipe, the product that you get out of this Voki is not just perfect, but it is 100% time perfect across at scale. So that's how we used automation, robotics, technology, and amalgamated it with the culinary expertise that we had. The second block of this, the second component of this operating system happens to be software stack. Right from the consumer-facing interface of placing an order to moving within the kitchen, the entire kitchen management, inventory management, all the modules to actually vendor management. This everything is actually tech-enabled. It's a complete software stack that we build again in-house. Thereby, again, going back to an example wherein if we actually expanded in a conventional route of scaling up our brand through the brick and mortar store, tomorrow, if the brand was not working, one had to shut the outlet. And it was a big location risk, capital risk, brand risk. But what we are saying, using the software stack today, we can simply toggle on or off any of our brand across any part of the country. That's how powerful the technology can be to avoid and get rid of the frictional force. And the very interesting third component of our Rebel operating system happens to be the supply chain pipe, which ensures that you can move ingredients from one corner of the country to the other. And now actually, not just the country, to the world actually. Give you an example out there, the supply chain today is pretty much like this virtual funnel that connects 400 kitchen of ours, where you can, during Ganpati, you can easily launch Modak and Puran Poli. During Navratris, we can easily launch Satvik Thalis across the country. During Christmas, we can launch plum cake, and the list goes on. So that's how powerful can it get using the power of these three components, which together jointly make the Rebel operating system. So just to quickly again kind of summarize, we started off saying that the F&B industry was really ripe for disruption. We said, if one has to disrupt, it's not only about one brand, but different missions you have to cater to. We understood the fact that there are these two frictional forces of real estate and skill, which we need to circumvent. Using technology, we launched and pioneered the cloud kitchen business model and then the Rebel OS. Now that we have the Rebel OS in place, very seamlessly what we can accomplish is this, which is we can very easily grow brands. We can build brands across the country, across the world. And when I say brands, not just our own brands, even the third-party brands, which is a very interesting further play that we have added on. While we have our portfolio of our own brands, like you have Fasos, Behrooz Biryani, Aman Story Pizza, Sweet Truth, Mandarin Oak, different brands getting to different food missions in that very 2x2 grid. But now what we can also do is enable these great national and global gems, which already exist in some part of the world, but they have not been able to scale up. We can onboard them onto the Rebel operating system and then very seamlessly scale them across the world. Quick example there, Wendy's, which is the world's third largest burger brand, they were trying to enter and scale up the country over the last 5, 6 years. They were able to accomplish about 6, 7 locations. Again, a lot of challenges here and there. But then last year we got into a partnership with them. And today we have been able to scale them across to 80 locations in the country in a matter of about 7 months. Likewise, great brands like, you have Anand Sweets in down south, you have Naturals ice cream, you have the donuts brand of Mad Over Donuts, and using the Rebel operating system, using the power of technology to circumvent these two frictional forces, we have onboarded them on our platform, and now we are scaling them across the country. So that's how powerful it could get. You could end up solving for each and every mission of that were completely untapped in the life of a consumer. The second beautiful thing that you can again further do is the fact that now you just can't you're not just limited on activating these brands on your own kitchens, but the fact that the brands can also be given out as a service, which we call as BaaS, to third party infra. Again, kind of challenging the rules of the book, wherein why do we even want to create a new infra if the infra already exists? A quick example there, like today we launched about in last few months, so in the pandemic, we launched Fasos brand across Singapore, Malaysia, Bangladesh, using the kitchen infrastructure that already exists in these markets, but by simply enabling the Rebel operating system in these markets and activating the brands across these geographies. So that's the second beautiful thing that you could do. And the third thing, which is activate all of this content, not just on any of our own channel, which is our own websites, our own apps, but also on different third-party aggregators which exist across the world, both in the online and the offline space. So what we're saying is, using the power of technology, we have been able to get rid of the frictional forces and then solve for all the consumer problems or the things that were not solved for up till now in a very unconventional manner. And this is here we are. We have been able to finally draw and have kind of disrupt this entire grid by having a brand for every other consumer mission. When we started about a decade back, we were only Fasos as a brand. And today we have Lunchbox, The Good Bowl, Zomos, we have other third-party brands which like Naturals, we have Mad Over Donuts, Anand Sweets, Wendy's, Behrouz Biryani catering to the group ordering mission or the indulgent mission, and likewise the plethora of brands that are able to cater to each and every other mission of the consumer. And so fundamentally what we are saying is that we have been able to kind of go ahead and challenge the conventional way, the way the food and beverage businesses were built over these entire century, and keeping consumers at the center. We have working backward from there, understanding the frictional forces and using the technology, we have been able to activate this entire ecosystem of brands and plug into their lives, which is what, as I said, we have been able to fundamentally reimagine a century-old industry using our own brands, third-party brands. And the proof of the pudding is the fact that today we are an organization, we are a platform for that matter, with 44 brands, with almost 4,000 plus internet restaurants across the globe. We are valued about $1 billion plus, and we are present across 10 countries, 60 cities with 400 plus kitchens. And all of that was only possible because we went ahead, understood what is the opportunity like, what is the frictional forces like, and use technology to disrupt it. And while we have accomplished this, the journey doesn't end here. We feel it's just the starting point of redefining this age-old industry of F&B, and we'll continue to fulfill all of this very vision of ours, which is build a platform to bring the most delightful and highest quality brands across consumer food missions in every neighborhood in the world. And what I mean here is that, so this is a disruption that has started from the country, from India. We have been able to redefine the playbook, the blueprint of running a F&B business across the world. For the matter, the cloud kitchen multi-brand business model has now become the mainstream business model across the world. And while this has happened, what we are going to ensure and what our vision is to ensure that 5-10 years down the line, and even now for that matter, whenever a consumer opens any of the platform with regard to ordering for food, most of the brands that are listed out there have to come from the Rebel portfolio. And that's with that vision, we continue to aspire to keep on disrupting, keep on further challenging as to, like, for example, I was mentioning about this brand as a service being another innovation that we have recently launched. And likewise, we keep on in this journey, keep on reinventing, keep on reimagining as to what further can be done to ensure we keep on removing the frictional forces on our journey. On a parting note, as I said in the beginning and illustrated with the help of our journey, it's very important for today's marketer to understand where the industry is, look at the opportunities which have not been tapped, and use technology to eradicate the frictional forces that are not allowing your business and the industry to grow at the required pace. And that brings me to the end of my session. Thanks once again, Brand Equity, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, viewers, for listening to me through to the end. I'm assuming you would have done it so far. And keep thinking consumer backwards and solving for frictional forces using technology. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Kochhar, for the insightful session. Now we'll move to track 6, which will cover the topics around security.